All right. Hey, everyone. This is chapter 3, building a paper organized. All right. So I'll go ahead and guide us through some of the key points from this chapter. And as a reminder, we do have that document with all the answers, basically the answer key, answer guide teacher version here on Canvas. So feel free to, do the exercises, especially if you have any questions or concerns about the topic at hand, right? So for the organization, this is really important as we, work on our research papers. We want to make sure our ideas are really, really well organized. But you probably have seen a lot of these techniques before in previous classes, so it will probably look pretty familiar, especially outlining. Okay, so I'll go ahead and summarize this for us a little bit. But yeah, it does definitely seem like, right, when we write our research paper, it's gonna seem really difficult, right? Because we're just, how do I even start everything? So we talked about we want to do our research, find our quotes, and kind of work from the middle of the paper to the top and the bottom, right? The introduction and the conclusion. Once you know what you're going to write about, then you know how to introduce it. So usually if we feel stuck on the introduction, it's probably because we just don't know what to introduce. Okay, so now that we've explored and analyzed a lot of information, we've done, we looked at all these articles and all, finding quotes from the articles. We're going to, in this chapter, focus on practicing, writing a thesis statement, expanding our outlines, and creating a detailed outline. So yeah, this is, again, probably pretty familiar, especially if you've done essay writing before, like in 273. All right, so writing a thesis, just like we talked about in class, our thesis at this point doesn't have to be super specific or detailed, like this happened because A, B, and C, like 1, 2, and 3. Now we can just, be more general with our topics. We can categorize, we can combine similar categories. But again, that's really up to you and up to the topic of the articles that you find, and really the issues, the topics, the effects of bilingualism that you choose to include in your essay. All right, so right here, the short, concise answer to your research question is your thesis statement. Only one sentence long, but of course, it's one of the most important sentences. Again, you know this from essays 1 and 2. Articulating your thesis, or the main thing you want to say right at the start, we do this for 2 reasons. It'll help for in 2 ways. You'll find out at the beginning whether you have a clear and workable idea, and you'll be able to use this thesis statement as your guide while writing your essay. So this is why you hear me always say, what is the prompt? Don't get too creative with it, right? Don't get too fancy with it. Just answer the prompt directly, especially when the prompt is a question. Of course, later classes, when you have to choose your own prompt within this topic, for example, right, your topic might just be bilingualism, and then you come up with a prompt like, oh, what are the effects, or what, whatever, right? But in this case, we already have a prompt. So yeah, go ahead and just answer the prompt. So we already know. So this is already done for us, right? Because I already decided the prompt. I already decided the research question. This first bullet point right here, this is more so, right? This is more important if you don't have a specific prompt. If you're just given a topic like bilingualism and you have to come up with your own prompt to answer, that's what this is about, right? So for us, it's okay, right? At this level in this class, we don't have to worry about it. But we still, of course, can use our thesis as a guide, which is really helpful and important because that is something to help us make sure that we answer the prompt. Since if our thesis answers the prompt, and if we answered our thesis, right, then we are always making sure that we answer the prompt. We have 4 characteristics of an effective thesis statement. Number 1, it states your topic and focus. Think back to earlier chapters, right? It's like the focus is what type of essay it's going to be. Is this going to be like a classification? Is this going to be a compare and contrast, argumentative? Right? And then, of course, we have to answer the research question or topic. Number 2 gives an overview of your supporting points, which are logically connected. So yes, even though we're not listing 1, 2, and 3 in our thesis, like I said, we're still introducing these general ideas, general categories, right? So like I said, I've given the example a few times. Oh, maybe something like bilingualism has social, biological, and whatever effects, right? And of course, later you can get more specific. Like, what do you mean by biological? Well, dementia, right? And other kinds of like diseases. 3, it gives enough information without too much detail. So this is important. So far, I'm not seeing this problem, right? I don't see too much detail, but sometimes I'm not seeing enough information. And of course, number 4, as usual, we want to use correct grammar and vocabulary. All right, at the bottom here, we have a thesis versus topic, right? So notice that your thesis statement is different from your topic. And just a reminder, a topic is a short phrase that states the general subject, such as taking risks. Right? That would be the topic, taking risks. For us, the topic, bilingualism. A thesis is something that you're going to sort of like prove or answer, right? So then, for example, this would be a thesis. Biological need, social environment, and psychological satisfaction are 3 reasons why people take risks. So you can guess the prompt was, why do people take risks? And then these are the 3 right, answers. So you've learned that in previous classes, right? 1, 2, and 3. Those are the controlling ideas. All right, topic and focus, like we said in chapter 2, we have to define the focus. So what type of essay are we writing, basically? Let me just make sure this camera is correct. Yeah, there we go. So research question. How are expectations of marriage in the United States and India similar or different? Well, the focus of this research question is a comparison, compare and contrast. So, all right, let me just check here, make sure the camera's not out of focus. All right, I think that's the best I can do right now. All right, so we do have our research question, and knowing the focus, then we can write a thesis statement. All right, so again, how are expectations of marriage in the US and India similar or different? Then we just have to answer that. Right? Belief in romantic love, the division of family responsibilities, and attitudes toward divorce are the 3 main differences between American and Indian expectations of marriage. Very straightforward, very academic 5-paragraph essay like from 273. So another example, why do people become homeless? Well, we can already identify that we're talking about causes, because why does this happen? What causes this? Then our thesis needs to have some answers, right? So the lack of affordable housing, inadequate public assistance, and the breakdown of the family are 3 causes of homelessness. Okay. We have a now you try on the next page. But I'll go ahead and just show us. It's just 3 sentences. We're going to circle the topic and underline the focus. Yeah, so teenagers committing murder, right? What causes that? So that's going to be our focus. We'll focus on the causes, and then this is our topic, right? Teenage crime, teenage whatever. Here, number 2, the death penalty should be abolished. So should the death penalty topic, should this be abolished? Argumentative. 2 results of promoting birth control, right? Birth control must be our topic. The 2 results, right? Cause and effect. So the effects. Yeah. Anytime you see a prompt, always identify the topic, which is going to be a little easier to do, but then think about what type of essay you're writing. All right, so for our paper, think about it. What are the effects, right? What are the effects of bilingualism? So our cause is bilingualism, once you learn more than 1 language. And then what are the effects, the results? So it's definitely a result, right? Effect-focused paper. Overview of supporting points. In a rough outline, right, we identify supporting points. And really what that is just kind of like your body paragraph points. So here's an example of that. A research question, why do people become homeless? Does it look kind of fuzzy here? Let me just double check the screen. My camera having some focus issues. All right, why do people become homeless? Is that better? Okay, why do people become homeless? We're going to be focusing on the causes. These are all causes of homelessness, right? Lack of affordable housing, inadequate or not enough public assistance, drug and alcohol problems, breakdown of the family, mental health problems. Okay, so that means these could be possible answers. Those could be your supporting points. So that means the lack of affordable housing, inadequate public assistance, and the breakdown of the family are 3 causes of homelessness. So that would answer that. Okay, 1 second here. Let me go ahead and pause this. I want to try to fix my camera a little bit. All right. And then we have another example here on the next page. Okay, there we go. We have another example here on the next page. What are the signs of alcohol addiction? So probably a definition, right? How do you define alcohol addiction? How do you know when it is, right? So definition: an urge to drink, an inability to stop, a physical dependence, a need to drink more. All right, so alcoholism is a disease that has 4 symptoms. There's a colon right there. Physical dependence, a need to drink more to feel its effects, a strong urge to drink, and an inability to stop drinking. Of course, this essay will focus on each of those 4 symptoms later in each body paragraph. So we have a now we try again on page 49. And I'll go ahead and skip to page 51. Just enough information. The thesis needs to have just enough, right? So not having enough information is a problem. Capital punishment causes many problems, sure. That sounds more like a fact, right? But we don't know what some of the controlling ideas, what are some things you might discuss later in your essay. The opposite problem is true if you have too much information. Like this is way too many details, right? This thesis statement gives more details than the reader needs at this point. These are things that we can save for the body paragraphs. I'm not saying this as a problem, so I don't think this is a big issue for us, but we do have a now you try at the bottom of the page. On the next page, 52, we have a reminder here to use correct grammar and precise vocabulary. Yeah, this section is kind of important for us. First, we have the structure. We need to have topic, focus, and overview. So this is, again, very similar to what we just saw on the previous page. So this is not too big of a problem, but style, right? Voice, vocabulary, these are things we really want to think about right here. Okay, right here. I still sometimes see this, like, I'm going to talk about in this paper, I'm going to discuss, I think. Again, we've reminded a few times now, we don't want that kind of language in academic writing. Style. Thesis statements are written in 3rd person rather than 1st person. Phrases such as I'm going to talk about or I think are not appropriate in a thesis. They're also not appropriate in the rest of your essay. Okay, so this is what I keep talking about when I say avoid narrating, right? Don't make it sound like a speech. This is an academic piece of writing, like a textbook. So you can see even in this textbook, the authors didn't say, I think I'm going to talk about, we think we're going to talk about, right? There's nothing like that. Right, and then vocabulary, of course, please be sure to use academic vocabulary. That's just a nice reminder there. And then we have a now you try on page 53. Okay, on the next page, optional section, but we do have common problems with thesis statements. Problem number 1, a lack of focus. We saw this earlier, right? If your thesis statement is just a short sentence that sounds like a fact, we don't really know what you're arguing. And this is really important. Your instructors will always remind you that your thesis needs to be arguable. In other words, your thesis needs to be something that can be proven with evidence. So yes, this sounds like you can prove it, but we don't know how you're going to talk about crime. Crime is the topic, but again, we don't have a focus. Are you going to compare and contrast like crime statistics from the past until now? Are you going to talk about the causes of crime? Are you going to talk about the effects of crime? Are you going to argue that there's crime? There's more crime? You see, we don't really know where this paper is going to go. There are so many topics, types of essays you can write, right? Before and after, cause and effect, compare and contrast. So a stronger thesis statement would be to have a cause, for example, have a focus, right? Focus on cause. So, okay, why? Why do we have a rising crime rate, right? So in the US has caused, sorry, not why, the effects. So it has caused a loss of talented young people to crime, high government costs for law enforcement, and a drop in tourism. So yes, the cause is rising crime rate, because what are the effects? This really should say effects. All right, and then stronger thesis statement. Another example will be focused on the comparison, compare and contrast. So crime today is more widespread among many economic groups, more violent and more costly to society than it was 10 years ago. So there's a compare and contrast. But again, if you just say has a lot of crime, that's just a fact. Or maybe not even, but it just sounds like a fact, right? We don't know where you're going with that, what kind of essay you're going to write. Okay, problem 2, just a lack of supporting points, kind of like the controlling ideas. 3 types of crime have been increasing in US cities. If you're going to say 3 types, all right, and 3 is a relatively small number, you might as well just list out those 3. All right, so 3 types. What are they? Personal assault, car robbery, and home burglary. That's it. That's basically it for problem number 2. Problem number 3, confusing supporting points. They're not logically connected. All right, you take a look here on the next page, 55. Many factors influence the hunting behavior of sharks. Okay, so we really should be talking about the hunting behavior of sharks. The type of shark, its age and strength, its migration patterns, people's misunderstandings about sharks' hunting behavior, and the current overfishing of sharks. The focus of this research paper is factors that influence the hunting behavior. So we have all 5 as supporting points, but the problem is points 1, 2, and 3 can help explain the causes for sharks' behaviors, but 4 and 5, people's misunderstandings about sharks. Whatever I think about a shark does not affect the shark's behavior. Right? The shark doesn't even know what I'm thinking about sharks. And number 5, overfishing of sharks. If we fish more sharks, that still doesn't change their behavior necessarily. There might be more information that you need for number 5 to prove number 5, but something like number 4 definitely has no relationship to a shark's behavior, right? My opinion of a shark does not change a shark's behavior. So you just make sure to delete the ones that don't make sense. They're not really related. So now we're just left with the first 3. Problem 4, we saw earlier, too much information. This thesis is very long. There's some details, there's some evidence that actually should just be in the body paragraphs. And that's what that says right there, right? So if you just trim it down, although some people argue that voting should be mandatory, there are 3 reasons why it should not. Maybe go ahead and include the 3 reasons if you only have 3, right? 1, 2, 3. But again, you don't really have to if you don't want to anymore as we move toward organic writing. Okay, and then 5, inappropriate language, basically the I statements, right? In this paper, I will write about why I support capital punishment and what people on the other side have to say about it. This is very, very informal, right? Other side, it's not very academic at all. So the stronger way to do it would be, although some people disagree with capital punishment, it is necessary for 3 main reasons. And maybe go ahead and list those 3 reasons if you want, right? Since you only have 3. But something like our research paper, now that we have maybe like, we talked about how you might have 6 body paragraphs, right? Around that number, then it doesn't really make sense to list all 6 things in your thesis. That's just going to make a very long thesis again. And we said that's one of the problems. All right, now we have a now you try on page 56 and some more activities that follow. And so as you just kind of flip a few pages here, you'll get to page 60. Expanding our rough outline with evidence. Yeah, there are a few paragraphs here which kind of summarize what we've already done. You've already done this in essays 1 and 2. And at this point, I hope you're making outlines because again, it's very, very helpful, like we talked about in class, and making sure to organize your ideas and organize your evidence. But there are some guidelines here for choosing effective evidence. Number 1, choose information that you understand. Of course, you need to understand it in order to include it in your paper, right? So that you can explain it. Number 2, choose ideas that are directly related to the point that you are making. Otherwise, a little bit off topic, kind of like, people's opinions about sharks that really, again, does not relate to a shark's behavior. And then 3, a variety of types of evidence. Remember, we talked about if I have my bilingualism paper and all 6 of my articles are related to dementia, then I just have a very, very, very detailed paper about bilingualism and dementia. That's not really the prompt, right? The prompt was, what are the effects? So we should really be focused on a variety of effects. So we should have a variety of evidence. Okay, easy to understand. That was point number 1, right? Choose information that we understand. Think about whether you understand it well enough to put it in your own words. Just like we said, that teachers always like you to paraphrase so that we know you understand it. Okay, so there's not a lot to go here. Sorry, not a lot to really mention here. I think I can leave this on the screen if you would like to pause and read this, but it's just an example, something that's easy to understand. And then the second point here is related to your point or your topic. Right? So again, I'll leave that there if you want to read that. But it kind of just explains what I've talked about already. We have a now you try on page 61. All right, 62, the third point, a variety of evidence. Okay, and this point, the third point here, right, variety of evidence. This I'm going to explain a little bit. We can use different types of evidence. There's first type, the book calls Einstein evidence, show that other scholars or researchers or scientists, right, have come to the same conclusion. This is what we talked about in class as, sorry, I'm blinking out, ethos, ethos, credibility, right, credibility. Like, oh, you don't have to believe me, believe these group of scientists and researchers and this university, right? We said logos is logic, right? Pathos is emotion, and then ethos is this credibility. So Einstein evidence is basically credibility, ethos. So this is why they include the citation, right, from this Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center in New York. So this is exactly why we find articles and we find quotes from academic articles, because they will be from universities, right? Professors usually. Example evidence, this is just going to be logos usually, logic, but at the same time, we also have, to illustrate this point of view, right, Brian Belsey in his article, The Electronic Village, whoops, I messed up the focus of the camera a little bit. But yeah, this is basically the same thing as earlier. This is still credibility, sort of, because yes, you got this evidence from a source. It's just not as strong, right, as credible, because it's no longer like a university or scholar, like a professor or someone, right? But you still got it from somewhere. So we call that example. Fact evidence, statistics, right, and other numbers and such. So yeah, that is more like logos. Logos as in logic. Right? You can't really argue against numbers, facts, logic. And then this last type, undocumented evidence, I want to skip right to the bottom here. In academic writing, most evidence is from documented sources. So for our papers, at this point moving forward, actually, I'm sorry, for all of our papers at this level, we really, really do not want to use any anecdotal, right, personal examples. We don't want to use them. It says sometimes it can be an effective addition to your paper, but really, really at this level and moving forward, you should break that habit. Right? Don't use personal examples anymore at this level of writing. Okay, and then we have now you try on page 63, and then some more activities to try, and then page 66, creating a detailed outline. All right, so next page here, 67, criteria for a useful outline. We should have a thesis in our outline. We should have a phrase to explain each supporting point, and then a notation of where you will use each piece of supporting evidence. The best way to do this is just going to be the traditional outline. I know this book is about to explain 3 outlining methods. You could try the other 2, but I'm really just going to focus on the traditional outline. In my opinion, I really think this is the best, fastest way to do it. This is the whole like Roman numeral style that we usually use, the 1, right, 2, 3. 1 usually is going to be our introduction. So that means we have our thesis. Compared with other inventions, the internet has changed our styles of communication and led to more freedom for individuals, right? So first, in our first body paragraph, right, 2, we have a comparison with other inventions. Compare internet to TV, compare internet to phone, and then give some examples. I know, it says personal examples, right? But we don't want that. Ignore that. We want to use maybe some statistics, some facts, some scholarly, academic articles or whatever for whatever topic our essay is. 3 would be our second body paragraph, styles of communication. So less time with old methods of communicating, less time with people. So we have these evidence, right, sources, less time with TV. So this is where really our quotes from our articles should go. So we know how to organize our body paragraphs. Right? And this is nice and easy because you can just create this outline in your Word document and then copy paste your quotes directly, and you can organize by bullet points or right this outline. So you know exactly which quotes you're going to use in which paragraphs. Then you have an understanding of what each paragraph is about because of your quotes, because of your evidence. My first body paragraph would be about dementia, right? Or my second body paragraph will be about like infants. Yeah, that's it. And I think you get the idea. Right? I'm pretty sure you get the idea now. You can also cluster, but you see, I just don't really like cluster because it's hard to do this on your computer. You could do this maybe by hand, but it's hard to draw these things. And I feel like, and for me, it takes longer. I really look for efficient ways to do this, especially if we are looking at articles online. I can just copy paste quotes, right? So if I'm copying pasting, I might as well just create this traditional outline. That would be the easiest way. Now, there is this third one, this grid outline, but I feel like this is just the first one again. This is traditional outline, except instead of going up and down vertical, it's just more horizontal, right, side to side. But whatever works for you, I'm not going to make you use a certain way. But yeah, traditional is the most common and popular way. And that actually brings us to the end of chapter 3. So yes, like I said, not a lot of new exciting information here, but we do have the now you tries, right, and the activities. But really, all I can really emphasize here is please create outlines, especially like I said, as in class, as your essays get longer, you will definitely get lost. You're not going to know what should go where as you're writing a 6-page paper or something like that. So please be sure to stay organized. It really will help you save time in the long run because you don't have to move things and go back and forth. So spend all your time to focus on planning your paper, no matter how long or how short the paper is. Right? Organize your evidence, plan, and then start writing. All right, so that's pretty much it for chapter 3. All right, let me know in class if you have any questions.